Thank you very much for coming on the
My
programme,
pleasure.
Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
People will be going to the polls in just a few days' time. Policy, of course, is going to matter, but
Yes,
character will matter as well. So why should people trust you?
Because I think if you look at what I do as a politician, what I say I'm going to do and what I do, I have a record, I think, of delivering for people where it really matters. And whether that's when I was running London, when I was able to cut crime very substantially or deliver more affordable homes than people thought we ever could, or cut delays on the tube by 30%, we, deliver a pretty successful Olympic Games. I deliver. Look at, since I stood on the steps of Downing Street 4 months ago, I said I'd do 120,000 more police. They're being recruited now. I said we'd build 40 new hospitals. Actually, the money is going in, not just for 6, but for 34 others as a result of the decisions
Well, not the
we're
full
taking.
money, just the seed money.
Yes, but that's essential. There will be 40 new hospitals built as a result of the decisions we're taking, plus 20 upgrades. We're going to have 50,000 more nurses. We are investing massively. We're in another classroom. You and I are always in classrooms when we do these interviews. We're putting money into every primary, every secondary school in the country. That's happening now. We want to get on and deliver. And the biggest thing that we've got to get right is Brexit. That's the thing that's been hanging over us for the last 3.5 years. And we have a plan to do it. We have a deal that's ready to go. And yes, it was very frustrating. People say, how can we believe you because you couldn't come out in October? Well, it was very frustrating. Parliament passed a special law that made it impossible for us to come out in October. You remember, Labour, Lib Dems, SNP got together to force us to send that letter.
Brexit is clearly a big part of your pitch.
And
clearly.
we can get out.
But can people trust
on January
you
the 31st.
when it comes to Brexit? Because last month you told businesses in Northern Ireland that they would face no forms, no checks, no barriers of any kind under your Brexit deal. And you also went on to say that if anyone asked them to fill out a form, they should phone you up personally and you'll direct them to throw that form in the bin. Well, how come then that this government document that was leaked this week says that that's not true, that there will be checks and forms? Were you telling the truth?
Yes, I am. And look at what we say in our manifesto, look what we're going to deliver. The deal that we've done with the EU...
So will there be checks?
No, absolutely not. The deal we've done with the EU is a brilliant deal. And it allows us to do all the things that Brexit was about. So it's about taking back control of our borders, money, laws. But unlike the previous arrangements, it allows the whole of the UK to come out of the EU, including Northern Ireland, and the only checks that there would be if something was coming from GB via Northern Ireland and was going on to the Republic, then there might be checks at the border into Northern Ireland.
So this document is talking about checks both ways.
And that's wrong, because there won't be checks.
So you're saying that this is wrong, the government's own impact assessment is wrong, your Brexit secretary is wrong, all these people are wrong, and you're right? Yes,
because there's no question of there being checks on goods going NI-GB or GB-NI.
So
they're part of, if you look at what the deal is, we're part of the same customs territory, and it's very clear that there shall be unfettered access between Northern Ireland and the rest of GB. And the only reason this is another of these things that has been produced by the Labour Party.
No, but it comes
as a
down,
kind of
you can't just blame it on Labour, it comes down to trust, doesn't it? When your own Brexit secretary is saying that there's going to be checks, when this document says there'll be checks, when your own impact assessment says there will be checks, people will be wondering if actually it's you that's wrong, or it's you that is willfully misleading people.
The whole of the UK comes out of the EU. We're a UK government. Why would we put checks on goods going from NI to GB or GB to NI? It doesn't make sense. So the issue is how to avoid a hard border in Northern Ireland, and we can do that by making sure that by having some checks on goods that might be proceeding into the Republic. Now,
we're talking about Brexit.
Now, this is a great deal, and what this deal allows us to do is come out on January the 31st, and it is in sharp distinction to Labour's deal, a non-deal, because they have no deal at all. They spend the whole of next year.
One of the things that you would say is one of the benefits of Brexit is control over the immigration system. You've talked about wanting to introduce an Australian-based, point-based system.
Yes.
So is there higher or lower immigration levels?
Lower. We're going to get lower, but I'm not going to...
But there's higher immigration levels in Australia currently than in the UK.
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. What we want to do is to use an Australian-style points-based system. I'm not hostile to immigration, as you know, Sophie. I'm a believer in allowing people to come to this country. And I think, you know, if they have talents and they want to do things that make their lives in the UK and they can contribute to our country, fantastic. And we've benefited from that. But what we're going to do is have three categories, as you may have seen from what we're saying. So people who are exceptional talents, they can come in, first violinists, nuclear physicists, prima ballerinas, whatever. They're going to come in, start-up kings and queens. They're going to come in simply by virtue of what they can contribute. Then there will be skilled workers, and we'll have a system so that people can come in to work in the NHS or whatever.
My question is,
and then there will be another sector, which is for a sector-specific group who won't have an automatic right to stay, but will come to do particular jobs and stay for a while. And that's the third category.
So my question is, if you want to see lower immigration levels, why are you adopting a system based on the Australian model, which has higher immigration currently than the UK? Madeleine Sumption, a member of the committee put together by the actual government to look into what's happening in Australia, says it's generally seen as a liberal model that would increase migration rather than decrease it.
Well, it depends how you apply it, Sophie. And what we're going to do is the Migration Advisory Committee will tell the government what's happening, and we will take a view about how to control it so that the
So we have to trust you again?
Well, I've said that what we want to do is bear down on migration, particularly of unskilled workers who have no job to come to. And I think that's what's happened over the last couple of decades or more. You've seen quite a large number of people coming in from the whole of the EU, which 580 million population, able to treat the UK as though it's basically part of their own country. And the problem with that is there's been no control at all. And I don't think that is democratically accountable. You've got to have a system by which politicians can say to people, well, yes, we are letting people in, but we're doing it in a way that is controlled and checked.
So can you guarantee that numbers will come down?
Yes, I can make sure that numbers will come down, because we'll be able to control the system in that way. And what I don't think is right is to have an uncontrolled and unlimited approach to that. And that's what Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party are offering. They're saying they're going to have complete free movement. And I think, that is absolutely not what people voted for.
Well, they said that would be up for negotiation in the discussions with the European Union.
Well, actually, they've said they're going to keep free movement, if you read what they're saying. And I think that's wrong. I think that people want to see democratic control. I don't think people in this country are hostile to immigration at all, let alone being hostile to immigrants, but they want it democratically controlled. And that's what Brexit allows us to do. That's why we need to get this thing through, which we can, before Christmas, and then come out on January the 31st.
Let's talk about your manifesto. The IFS, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, says that as a blueprint for 5 years in government, the lack of significant policy action is remarkable. So what is the single most radical policy in your manifesto?
Well, I disagree with that very strongly. Look at what we're going to do with, first of all, Brexit is the most radical and profound change to the management of this country.
Many people would say there's nothing radical about implementing the result of a referendum that happened years ago.
I totally agree with that.
What is the radical thing in your manifesto?
Hold that thought, because that's right.
What is the single most radical thing
we did implement it.
In your manifesto?
There's an £100 billion infrastructure revolution that we're going to introduce. We are going forward with all sorts of programmes. We're going to build 1 million more homes. We're going to put 20,000 more police on the streets of our country. We're going to get rid of automatic early release for serious sexual and violent offenders. We're going to reform our prison system with £2.5 billion investment in prisons. We are going to look at the transport agenda. We are going to drive.
For one thing.
I ask people to look at the whole thing.
The reason I'm asking
the whole agenda is transformative of this country.
Because many people would look at Labour's manifesto, like it or not, it's a radical manifesto. The Conservative manifesto, some people would see as merely fixing the issues of the last 9 years of a Conservative government. So you're talking about police officers. since 2010, 23,000 police officers have been cut. You're now going to introduce rehire 20,000. You've scrapped the nursing bursary, now you're going to rehire it. You're talking about getting Brexit done at the same time.
No.
But many people will see
this is a massive programme. No,
this is just effectively saying you're going to spend a little bit more money and you're just going to redo some of the things that you've already
This is a massive
scrapped.
programme of investment in public services, from healthcare to education, policing, crime, plus infrastructure, which will transform this country. What we want to do as a one-nation Conservative government is unite and level up across the country. That's why we're investing in every primary and every secondary school in the country, because I want every child in the country to be able to make the most of their talents. If we get the chance with a majority government on Thursday to implement that manifesto, it will be transformative of our country. And it's not just Brexit. Brexit is indispensable. You can't move forwards without Brexit. But this manifesto will, if you look at what we're doing with roads, rail, telecommunications, 5G telephony, with gigabit broadband, this will bring the country together.
One policy,
and that is an amazing opportunity for our country.
In particular, because there's been a lot of criticism saying that you can't completely trust all of the figures, all of the promises in the manifesto. One thing in your manifesto is a promise to deliver 50,000 more nurses.
Yes.
How many of those will actually be new?
Yes, 31,000 is the answer.
So why don't you just say you're going to deliver 31,000 nurses rather than 50,000? It's a nice shiny number, but isn't accuracy important?
I've explained this many times so far. It's a very important problem we have in the NHS that there are 19,000 nurses who would leave the system unless we put the investment in now, and that's what we're going to do. And let's be clear.
But when you're talking about delivering more nurses,
as a result,
most people would not accept that people who are already working in the NHS are new nurses.
No, they're not. You're right. But you're right there. What we're saying is that we'd be down 19,000 if we hadn't put this investment in. We're going to have 31,000 new. As a result of the investments we're making, we're going to have 50,000 more nurses. We're also going to have, as I say, 40 new hospitals, 20 hospital upgrades, and
full money has
6,000
only been
more
promised for
GPs.
6 hospitals. I mean, it's not 50,000 nurses if 18,000
Yes,
are
but
already in the NHS.
But
It's
Sophie,
not 40
you
new
don't
hospitals
put
if only
seed
6 of
funding.
them have been properly, fully funded.
Of course, but you don't put
How can
seed
people
funding.
trust you if
don't
the numbers
put seed funding
crumble?
into schemes that have no merit. We're talking about tens of millions of pounds to start architects' drawings, to start business cases, to start planning permission, to get these things going. That's what you need to do. And that's what we are doing. This is a very dynamic and very ambitious government. We're very ambitious for this country. But people go on and on about trust. I think the trust has been undermined in this country, and trust in politics has been undermined, but it's been undermined by people who for 3.5 years, as you said yourself, promised to deliver Brexit and then didn't, and Parliament has held Brexit up. That's why we have to have this election. We have to have this election to fix this broken Parliament and move forward. If we get Brexit done and we can deliver the agenda that's set out in that manifesto, I believe it will be absolutely transformational for this country. And that's what we want to do. And that's the choice on Thursday. You look at our two manifestos, you've invited the comparison. Actually, ours is ambitious, very, very powerful. It will drive the country forward. I'm afraid Labour's would be economically ruinous. And that is every independent assessment says that. If you raise borrowing by £1.2 trillion, you'll put up interest rates.
You're happy to raise borrowing as well, aren't you?
You'll put up, but we're talking about quantum differences. And Labour normally ends their government with an economic crisis. These guys would start with one. Now, by putting up borrowing to 1.2 trillion, by putting up taxation on individual taxpayers by £2,400, their plans would mean people on as little as £20,000 a year were paying £1,000 more in tax. That cannot be right.
We're in the last weekend now
of
the election campaign. We have seen the polls narrowing. Are you a bit nervous?
Of course, we're fighting for every vote, and I think that this is a critical moment for this country.
So if you don't get the majority, would you resign?
The choice on Thursday is unbelievably stark. It's between going forward with a one-nation Conservative government that can get Brexit done and unleash the potential of the whole country, or spending the whole of next year in complete paralysis with 2 referendums, one on Scotland, one on the EU, when Jeremy Corbyn cannot even tell us what his position is on Brexit and who is going to campaign for the deal that he proposes to do, nor can he tell us why anybody should even vote for the deal that he proposes to do.
If the choice is so stark in an election that you called, if you don't get the majority, will you resign?
I'm going to fight for every vote.
If you don't get the majority, will you resign?
If you don't mind, Sophie, what I'm going to do is concentrate on the 5 days before us, because that is what I think the people of this country would expect. We've got a very short time to get our message across. It's a message of hope and optimism about this country. This is the most amazing country on earth. It can be the greatest place to live, to send your kids to school, to run a business. That's what we want for this country. The best place to grow old. We can do all that, but we can't do it if we remain in paralysis and with a hung parliament.
Talking about the election campaign, there's been a lot of energy expended on trying to look at who's going to be in what debates, when they're going to happen, who's going to be doing them. Now, Sky News has been campaigning for an independent debates
arbitrator
commission
of debates.
Something
Is that true?
Yes.
Right.
In 2018, you actually thought it was a good idea. You said that I certainly support Sky's campaign to have an independent commission to make sure we get it right. So if you're Prime Minister, is that something that you'll be backing?
I think there is, it's an interesting idea. Well, I certainly think, and your basic point, I think, is a really good one, which is, guys like me have got to submit to interrogation in the run-up to elections. I think you're now the 123rd interview I've done, or something like that. I think actually I've done several interviews, I'm proud to say. I've done 2 prime-time, one-on-one leadership debates. No Prime Minister has ever done those. Anyone has done those before. I've done hour-long phone-ins. I've done all sorts of things, and will continue to submit to your cross-examination.
And just finally, now,
yes.
The last time we spoke, last month, I asked you what the naughtiest thing was that you've ever done.
No, not this again.
And at the time, you said to me, I'll make you this promise. You said to me, I'll make you this promise.
You need to interrupt now.
If I can think of some answer about the naughtiest thing I've ever done that's both interesting and not terminally political damaging, I will try and provide it for you the next time we meet.
Oh, no.
Well, here we are. You've had lots of time to think about it on the battle bus.
Oh, no.
What is the naughtiest thing you've ever done, Prime Minister?
The naughtiest thing I ever... I did promise to think about it, but I've been so busy trying to get Brexit done and trying to fight for it. What is the naughtiest thing I've ever done? God, I'm trying. Look, I think Sophie, I'm going to have to come up with a. What was the? Come on, folks, help me out here. Can anybody? What is the naughtiest thing that you've ever seen me do? I think I may sometimes, I guess I'm going to put this, I may sometimes, when I was riding a bicycle every day, which I used to do, I may sometimes have not always obeyed the law about cycling on the pavement. I may sometimes, okay, but I want you to know how firmly and how strongly I disapprove of people who cycle on the pavement. And I think it's wrong, and I feel bad about it, but I might sometimes have scooted up onto the pavement rather than dismounting before.
The naughtiest thing you've ever done is to cycle on the pavement.
No. It was a very, very careful rubric. What you said was the naughtiest thing that I was prepared to admit.
That isn't terminally damaging.
Yeah, I don't think it. I strongly disapprove of anybody breaching the law, the laws of the road, and we'll invigilate them very thoroughly if we're lucky enough to be returned with a working majority on Thursday, which is what we need to get Brexit done and move this country forward.
Prime Minister, thank you.
Thank you.